implemented this last night too, by the way. So
Nice.
we want to just see LDL, right?
Yeah. Or ApoB, would that be there in
Oh,
the same thing?
ApoB? Sure. Yeah, let's just go up and do that first. Um, there we go. ApoB, generate.
Yeah. So let's see here. So what is that? 87. So it's your trend line is around, average is around 87.
Yeah, way out of my optimal because there's my optimal down here.
Yeah. So the optimal is a tricky one. So when I look and I mentioned this in my most recent video, or maybe it's not out yet. I don't know. I can't remember. But it's coming out this Sunday if it's not out there yet. But so ApoB, the reference range is I think it's less than 115. And then Quest has the reference that they use to determine that as their reference range. And it's a study from 2004 by a scientist named Waldius. So, I'm always doing deep dives in the literature, trying to figure out what's the most recent data because, the reference range is just behind the times. Like it takes them forever to update their ranges based on the newest and, best literature. So
Looks like life extension has it here as 109.
that's too high too. So that
Yeah.
study in 2004 was the Amoris study by Waldius. And it just so happens that I ended up finding that same study, which was a longitudinal study published in 2021. So Quest used that paper from one of the earlier studies of the Amoris study and following people who ended up getting cardiovascular disease in a very short time, up to 2004. But then the rest of the cohort was followed for another 17 years. So, same sample size, but a longer follow-up. And the longer follow-up tells you something about, so longer follow-ups are generally better than a smaller follow-up, right? Because if more people are getting heart disease and dying within 4 years, then probably they were pretty sick to start with, versus the longer follow-up is, you've got more likely to have people who are generally healthy, and it takes a longer time for, some of that population to die off, right? So anyway, so the same first author, Waldius, 2021, Amora study, Waldius, 2004, Quest. So Quest hadn't updated it based on the newest available information. So from that study, they have a beautiful plot that's in the video of ApoB levels less than 76 milligrams per deciliter, lowest risk for having a major adverse cardiovascular event. So uh, heart attack, I don't remember if it was non-fatal or fatal, stroke, and cardiovascular disease mortality. Um, Now, above that, risk did increase. MACE risk did increase, but it was still in the quote unquote green. So it isn't just less than 76. The higher end of the quote unquote green range, according to them, could be like 92 milligrams per deciliter, but the lowest risk was less than 76. So that's what I'm shooting for.
So now you got me curious why I have my optimal where it is. So let's see, we were just looking at ApoB. Let me come back. Reference table. I want to see why I said it where I did. Um,
Probably Peter Attia is always talking
uh,
about like,
life extension said like less than 80, less than 60 optimal. My cardiologist said less than 70. I don't know why I have it
ah,
set. I do. That's interesting. I have it set between 52 and 60.
so
Normally, I would have my reasoning in here, and it's missing. So,
So I remember you sent me some data where I think you had some small amount of plaque or something along those lines. So in
yeah,
that case, as low as physically possible. I mean, sure, less than 76, but in your case, having some pre-existing plaque, I mean, less than 50, whatever
yeah.
the lowest you can get to.
But this was so specific, 52 to 60. I don't know why I came up with that. I got that from somewhere. I just don't know where now. That's interesting. Oh, well. Okay, HDL. I quit scrolling past it. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, nice. So 58 is most recent data, trend line up. HDL can decline during aging. I mean, it peaks in youth and then it comes down in men and then basically stays flat in the low 50s. So yeah, you've resisted that. That's good
Yeah.
news.
I've set all of these. yeah, based on my age. So like from 60 on, what does it do? That's what you see here. So this wouldn't be the same for somebody that's, 50 or 40 or 30.
Gotcha. Yeah, so then the big question here is what two did you do to get your HDL going in the right direction from low, high 40s to, high 50s?
Yeah, right offhand, I can't tell you. I don't know. I'd have to go back and take a look.
Yeah. Triglycerides?
Okay. They're actually nice and low.
Yeah, it should be. Oh, you've got PSA there too.
Oh yeah. But we can come back. Triglycerides, HCl ratio. I got so there's my triglycerides.
Okay, still low.
It could be better.
So less than 45, that's associated with lowest heart disease mortality risk. So that's the ideal. I'm not even there yet. I mean, but looks like yours are around 60, somewhere around 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good. Um, and the
Trending up.
Yeah, I mean, very mildly. I mean,
It's a mild slope. Yeah.
yeah. So then that I guess all right. So then L lipoprotein A, are you measuring lipoprotein A? Trying to
Uh,
figure out why your ApoB would be a bit higher, closer to 80. Triglycerides contribute to ApoB, but then obviously LDL, lipoprotein A.
yeah,
Uh,
I don't do that very often either.
yeah, but interestingly, in your case, there's a wide range. For most people, it's pretty tight. And genetically, I put that in quotes, genetically limited. But you can see yours have ranged from 15 to double that, 33.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I typically don't do it because they tell you that it stays pretty flat or pretty consistent. So that's why I haven't tested it. But I can see in my case, it's not very consistent.
yeah. So I can't figure out if I should only focus on ApoB or lipoprotein A because there is some published data suggesting it is more atherogenic than LDL. So does that mean I should be trying to reduce lipoprotein A and ApoB? But if I reduce ApoB and lipoprotein A is a bit higher than it should be, does it matter? I, I, I can't. I still don't have a definitive answer on that.
So I'm assuming mine is based on my meat consumption.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
So in my case, I don't eat meat that often, even though I have fish and yogurt every day. So uh, it's a higher fat intake in my data. I've been able to cut lipoprotein A in half over the past, 10 years or so from my
Wow.
highest level. But even
By doing what? Just limiting your fat?
higher fat diet.
Higher fat. Okay.
Yeah. But even there's a U shape because if I go too high for fat intake, all the biomarkers start going way too high. Red blood cells go even higher. Hemoglobin goes towards closer to 16. So, I don't want to optimize lipoprotein A and then send the glucose goes up. So I don't want to send everything else in the wrong direction. So it's, how much fat can my body tolerate before I'm messing up the other stuff?
So what kind of stuff are you doing? Avocados and
Not avocados, but just mostly nuts like almonds, walnuts, peanuts, Brazil nuts, uh, occasionally cashews, occasionally sunflower seeds. But the core is like almonds, peanuts, walnuts.
yeah, see, my diet is really high in nuts and avocado and yeah, so I'm getting a lot of fat.
Yeah. Do
Hmm.
you know what the approximate, like how much of the percentage of calories from fat would be your diet composition?
Ooh, no. There was a time when I was using, I think it was called uh Nutrisense. I think it was one of the CGMs that I was using that I was putting all my food in and looking at it. And that was years ago. And I now I couldn't tell you. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Probably need to do that again.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, wait. So LDL,
Okay, LDL.
trying to figure out where the higher than it should be ApoB. It's not coming from triglycerides, so VLDL, because your triglycerides are relatively low. Yeah, you've got some room to move down in LDL. And so LDL, probably the most controversial these days, right? You have people who post,
The
you're going
lean
to
mass
say,
hyper responders and all that
well,
stuff.
that's a whole different category. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
eating no carbs I don't even want to wade into those waters. It's a whole different scenario, right? So, but in the average population, there are conflicting epidemiological studies. Do you want your LDL to be closer to like, some studies suggest even 190, 180 is associated with lowest risk. But so LDL follows an inverse U during aging, low in youth, also low in advanced age. So there too, it's like, how would you know if you're youthful or centenarian levels where they're both very low, right? So
Yeah.
and then when you consider that there are studies in 80-year-olds that have higher LDL, higher total cholesterol, and they have lower all-cause mortality risk relative to people who have lower LDL, well, LDL declines towards the end of life. And actually, that's another video I've got in progress where cancer cachexia, lower LDL, and cancer incidence increases during aging. So
Oh,
if someone's got even undiagnosed cancer, I'd bet that their LDL is declining for a long time and they may not even know it. So
wow.
yeah. So anyway, so when considering that, you've got epidemiological studies that haven't adjusted their models for all of the factors that can impact the association for LDL with heart disease or all-cause mortality risk. Like they'll look at the standards, age, sex, BMI, pre-existing CVD, um, but rarely they'll include cancer or liver disease, which can impact LDL. LDL, cholesterol is made by the lipoproteins are made by the liver. So if you have liver disease, as an advanced age, you'd be less likely to be even put it out into the blood. So anyway, there's one study
Hmm.
that looked at 4.7 million people that adjusted for all of that. Cancer diagnosis, CVD, the standards, age, sex, BMI, dementia, liver disease, kidney disease, like it was like 11 comorbidities. And when they did that, the basically higher is better LDL in association with lowest all-cause mortality risk. No, that's not true anymore. And then the optimal range for CHD mortality risk is 65 to 120. So even though technically, and that might be where your green lines are from, I don't know.
Could be. All right, let's see if I actually have some some reasoning for that recorded here. So we're looking for, I'm sorry, were we just looking at LDL?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So LDL right there. And then let's come over here. And okay, I've got lots lots of different reasoning. Some of this was probably taken right out of your video.
Yeah. Inverse U, I see that.
Yeah. So I got the lowest ACM 130 to 180.
Ah,
Since 120 is significant CVS CHD risk, I was setting my high end to 120.
yeah. But when considering you do
But there we go. I got your name right here. Yeah, believe
yeah,
that's
but
too
you've
high.
got
Yeah.
that's great, Dave. But you've got the earlier data that didn't adjust for all of the factors that can impact the association for LDL with all-cause mortality, um, where LDL was 130 to 180 lowest risk, unless it says, but not adjusted for all comorbidities.
Yeah.
No worries. So anyway, that's where I think a lot of and I'll probably make a video on this at some point, just, and probably light fires. People are going to be yelling at me in the comments, but the data is what it is. Uh, but knowing that you have was it coronary artery calcium or was it soft plaque? I don't remember in your case.
I had yeah, I could probably pull that up. So I mean the visuals I think are probably better than anything. So you can see the very little bits of plaque built up here.
Yeah.
And that's the so I've got calcified versus non-calcified shown here.
So I mean, you do have some minor plaque, right? So then the question is, does reducing ApoB to its lowest level, does that help slow the rate of increase over time?
Yeah, and all this was new as of in the past few years because I did a coronary calcium CT about roughly 5 years ago, and I would say I was about maybe zero, I think, is what I was, and now I actually had a score, which scared me because that was a big change, I thought, within the last 5 years.
But still super, super low, right?
It's still low. It's just not as low as I would have liked it to have been. I
Yeah.
mean, zero is what I would have liked it to have been. So,
So then the
I,
question is if you can reduce ApoB to, 50, 60 versus 80, you know, will that slow the progression? That's the big, right?
That's the question.